Hey, this is Brian here, and I want to come to you to just make a update video because it seems like I haven't been online for a week, and I updated everyone, and built up some excitement about the drive shaft that I had just gotten and I was going to put on the car. So I want to make an update video and tell you what's going on and why I haven't uploaded a new video, because I was going to install this pretty quickly and it had all these expectations. Well, I kind of ran into a stumbling block, and I'm going to explain that to you right here. So here we go. Okay, so let me just explain. I'm gonna keep the drive shaft and still install the drive shaft. I think it's going to be a big benefit for me. I want to try it out. And so last week, maybe 7 or 8 or maybe 9 days ago, let's go back that far, I was driving the car, and for the last probably 8 or 9 months, I've been experiencing a very, very random issue. And what it is, if it's really hard to explain and really hard to try to convey to a dealer what's going on to get it fixed. So that's why for the past 9 months, I just it happens and it doesn't really bother anything. The car drives fine, but what it is if you're on a highway and you kind of doze off, or you're looking at your phone and you hit those grooves they grind out on the side of the road called rumble strips, you hit those and you go, and it shakes the car, and it's really be quite loud, and you get you to get your concentration back, and you put back on the center of your lane. You're like, whoa, okay. It's like that, and it's just very, very random. It's once or twice a month, and it's been happening for 8 or 9 months, maybe a year. And how do you go to the dealer and you tell them this is what's happening, and then they hop in your car and like, we're going to have to duplicate it to fix it. And it's just so random, but so blatantly that there's something wrong. I've taken my wheels off in that meantime and inspected everything in the wheel well. Nothing's rubbing. There's nothing wrong. The tire's not rubbing. The ABS, everything is working great. The car drives fine. It's just randomly this crazy vibration and noise that comes from maybe the frontal area here, maybe directly down, but a little bit more to the right of the passenger side of the car, and the floorboard right there. And it's underneath the car. So the other day it happened, and it was louder and it was more annoying, and it's only for 3 to 4 to 5 seconds. So it's really quick and it goes away. And then I don't hear it again until maybe another month. But the other day that happened too, I heard a little cranking, grinding noises like coming from the rear of the car, maybe in the drive shaft area or the rear differential. And so I was like, man, that's kind of odd. I've never heard that sound before either. So that just really got me thinking, because the drive shaft is associated and can be associated with the transmission and the differential and the drive shaft that's the OEM drive shaft that's on the car. I was like, man, I need to hold off on installing that drive shaft and drive this more. And then two, I opted to take this into the dealership, and I dread and I hate and I have nightmares of taking my cars in, and I've had past experiences that I've been very, very unhappy with the dealership and the way they've, in a sense, treated the car to a small degree, and how they put some things back together and the things that they've done. And so this time, again, they disappointed me to a degree, and I just hate, they leave your car out, and then a mechanic may take your car home because he's got to drive it to find out the issues. And this one issue, I said, you'll have to have my car for an entire month and drive it every day for 3 or 4 hours every day to be able to have this occurrence happen, and you might catch it. And so I just had nightmares, that this mechanic, is taking my car home, because they can only hang on to your car for 1 or 2 days. They don't want to take up more time than that. So he's got to drive your car every day for an hour, and, and just on, it's just a nightmare. But so the mechanic They had to replace my SOS sensor up here. When you push the button, you can, home link or whatever, because there was a recall on that. And my dealers, local dealers, have been competing, trying to get me in to change that. So, I mean, they can get money for that, repair or recall. And so he had to get in there and change some things up here in this portion of the windshield. And he got in and he had something sharp in his back pocket, or he had a bunch of keys attached to his belt. And he got in and he nestled around and drove my car and kind of damaged my seat. I have the sport seats, and I'm the type of owner that I'll have my car 5 years and you won't even know. The seats get wrinkles and they get those little divots and they get discolored, and the leather gets kind of worn down. But my seats will look brand new 4 years from when I bought it, and I take really good care of my stuff. So I immediately, got in my car, and I know that's a high wear area as people get into the car, just like, the metal on your jeans. Someone comes up and sits up against your car and slides down your car, and these metal little brads, put a big scratch in your car. So I'm very, very aware of those things. So yeah, my seat got a little bit damaged, but it was enough that I don't want to press the issue. It's like someone rear ends you, just bumps you at a light and just barely bumps you, and you go back and you look, and it's just a little bitty scratch. And the bumper's $1,000, and it's to repaint it's $700, and you're like, man, that's just not worth it to punish someone for a little small scratch, that make them go to their insurance and pay you $1,700, and then the effort to get it repainted and all that. So I just looked at it and I'm like, man, my heart just sunk into my into my lower belly, and I was just like, damn. But anyway, so I just hate taking it to the dealership. It's like loaning your wife, out, or loaning your wife out. But treat her good, bring her back in a couple of days. Do whatever you need to do to her. And so, man, it's just not a good situation, and I hate it. But I mean, unfortunate. But they couldn't figure anything out. I mean, they checked the fluids, they put it up on the lift and did a 50-point inspection, and I knew they weren't going to be able to figure it out. And they drove it around. Of course, in 20 minutes of driving, it's not going to happen on one day. And so I was very, very disappointed about that, and it's kind of a waste of time. But in the big picture of things, it is documented at Infinity in the computer system, and it will go, all world or United States wide to any Infinity dealership. That problem is documented, and so if I blow my transmission up on my torque converter, I can be like, I told y'all, and you didn't want to replace it, because when things get damaged and go out, then it usually takes a lot of other things out, and it creates a lot more damage. So, I guess it's out of my hands now, but other than that, and I can't install my drive shaft because that is a direct related part, that if they see that and I destroy my torque converter or my transmission, then that is a part that can be, said that that's the reason why this happened. So I've got to be really careful with that. But other than that, let's see, just me kind of being a little negative. But I just wanted to update everybody on what's going on with the car. I haven't abandoned the idea and not sending the part back. I just got to be really, really careful and make some smart decisions here. Also, too, my car, the people that haven't watched my videos in the past, and I probably have 120 videos now, I've had all kinds of transmission and torque converter codes from when I got tuned at Jotech. There were months there where I was getting maybe 90 TCM codes per a month, while they were tuning it, and Jotech was like, nah, just don't worry about that. That's just a computer freaking out about some things. And I contacted Ecutech, the people that provide the software to go in and kind of hack into our software that runs and manages this car. But yeah, so and there's just some issues with my car, being that it's a 2019 middle of the year. I just cannot tell you because I'm not a software engineer. I'm not with Nissan Infiniti. I don't know what they did with the software as far as the torque converter and the transmission. We can't control that. Our tuners can't control that. A lot of other cars, they can go in and tweak all kinds of parameters, and it's a huge, huge feature to be able to tune the transmission. Shift points, RPM, line pressure. I mean, and I'm not a professional in this regards, but there's all kinds of ways to go in and really help your car in certain situations, for 0 to 60 off the line, 120, 0 to 120, 60 to 130. If you could tune the transmission, you can actually gain a lot of performance by tuning the transmission, but these transmissions are untunable at this point, and that is the TCM portion of the software of the ECM, and there's the PCM side of it too, where we get the DCT codes, but I'm not going to get into that too far because I'm not a professional tuner in that regards, but my transmission and torque converter have been causing me just nightmares with issues. And just to touch base real quick, my car in manual mode, you know, taking it out of full auto where the car makes a decision to shift, I put it over into manual and I'm at 0 miles per hour and I'm getting ready to take off and I floor it first gear. The car is, even though I'm in manual mode, is making its own determination of when it wants to shift. And it's between about 5,400 and 5,500 RPMs. And so when it's racing up and the tach is just screaming up to 7,000 RPMs, you got to be real quick to upshift or you'll over rev or hit the rev limiter. And so I'm waiting to shift, you know, and first to second gear, and I'm just, you know, it's milliseconds that you have a moment to do that. And the car pre-shifts itself. And then I'm sitting there and it's so quick that this happens and the tach is climbing that I shift up right after that too. And then the car's in second and it thinks I'm shifting up to third. It just really screws everything up. And I'm just going to close this video out because it's going to get too long. That I had their loaner car. It was a 2020 3.0 T. And I did the same things that I did with my car, and their car ran perfectly. It ran like a bald eagle, a caged bald eagle, and then you open the door and he's been in there for a year and he wants to fly. I mean, he screams out of there, you know, ah! And I mean, it ran really, really good, and it shifted. It shifted, you know, closer to, you know, 6,500 RPM, first gear and second gear, where my car shifts and at 5,500, and I'm missing out on that extra 1,000 RPMs. It's just a major, major letdown, and it's really hurting the car as far as trying to go fast. And I'll just mention too, in one of my data logs, before all this happened, or the same day this happened, from first gear to second gear, the car with my data logs, so I'm always data logging in Draggy, you know, app running stuff, and I, between the first gear and the second gear shift, or second to third gear shift, I just can't remember right at this moment, the car lost, between the milliseconds of shifting between gears, it lost 5 miles per hour. It went from 50 miles per hour, 55 miles per hour during the shift, full throttle, because I'm logging how much throttle input I'm putting in, so I did not let off the pedal. The car de-accelerated 5 miles per hour from one of those shifts. And I'll show the log here. Okay, here I have a data log, and there's a lot of information right here, so I'll speed through it real quick. As you'll see, if you look at this closely, you'll see my throttle input. I'm data logging that, and my car, 99 out of 100 runs, will automatically pull the throttle. The ECU is you know, not liking something, and it's constantly pulling my throttle, so my car is dropping from 100% throttle input and typically down to, you know, 30 and 20% and sometimes even 10%. So how do you go fast when the car is pulling the throttle? Okay, so anyways, that's very disappointing. So then you'll also see my first gear, second gear, and third gear text there that shows where the car is during the shifts. And during the second to third gear shift, with the throttle input at 100%, the car was doing 55 miles an hour when it decided to shift. And during that time, it dropped 5 miles an hour down to 50 miles per hour. How in the heck does a car that's accelerating 100% drop down 5 miles per hour during a shift? It just is just unbelievable. It boggles my mind, but my car is doing this. And I felt it. And when I was doing this run, I was like, man, that was a slow run. I could feel the car bog down and lose speed. But then I got home later and I saw the car had trapped at 118 miles per hour from my 0 to 120 runs. So the car is running very strong,
but the transmission and the torque converter are effing everything up. I just cannot explain what's happening. I just don't know, and nobody can help me. Dealers are scratching their heads. Ecutech doesn't know, and I'm just at a loss for words.
And just really disappointing, but the car still ran 118 miles per hour in the quarter mile. But how fast can you go if you don't de-accelerate 5 miles per hour while you're full throttle between a shift? It's just insanity. The car could be so fast and so strong otherwise, and it's just a disappointment that this transmission and this programming and the torque converter are just not communicating well, or just are out of an alignment, or I don't know what's going on. And the dealerships obviously can't figure it out. I take it in, and they're just not trained for this stuff. So, I mean, they're scratching their heads. Everyone's scratching their heads, and they look and they're like, everything seems fine to us. Everything looks good. Fluids look good. Car drives fine. You know, we just don't know what to tell you. But you got to be careful of how much information I can share with them, because my car is tuned, and explaining to them that I know what's going on with the car, and here's why. You know, I'm tuned and I'm data logging and I've got all this information. Here's the information. You know, it's all very, very clear and very, very apparent of what is going on. But you got to tiptoe in there on your tiptoes and go, my car's just not working right. Can you know, hook a computer up to it and see what's going on? You know, and they just nothing's getting fixed. So other than that, I just wanted to share with everybody. It's just something that I'm going to have to work through, or just accept, and get the Driveshaft installed here. It may be a week, it may be 2 weeks, it may be a month. I'm going to hang on to it. I'm just going to see how things go. The car ran its best at 3.91 0 to 60, and I really want to be in the 3.7, 3.8, and I was hoping the Driveshaft would get me there, but it's just unknown things going on with the car. As disappointing as that is, you know, I see people on YouTube and they're, you know, rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, and they're like, look, I'm just going to, you know, I'm on this unusual, you know, just a standard road, and they floor it, and they got their draggy going, 3.7, and I didn't even try, you know. And I've been struggling and working at it so hard and so diligently, you know, and it's taken me so long to get where I am. And the average Joe that just takes it off the showroom floor and is like, man, I just cranked out a 3.7 and I've got, you know, the shitty tires that came on it, you know, and the video shows, you know, no wheel spin is, you know, obviously some are all-wheel drive and some are rear-wheel drive, but just such a disappointment. So, you know, I just wanted to, you know, have a certain car that was a certain speed.
I also want to include this a couple more data logs just real quick. Here you can see in this data log where my, you know, obviously, you know, when you get on a throttle and you're 100%, but my car is just like 99 out of 100 data logs. My car will just suck the power away. The throttle just gets taken out. Even though my foot is to the floor, it drops down, and that kills my boost. It kills my momentum. It kills everything. So you just don't think I'm crazy, but man, my data logs tell me, you know, over and over and over, this just complete nonsense. Okay, so here we got our second data log, and here you can see that between first gear and second gear, let me see, my first gear shift point was 5,535 RPMs. Even though I'm in manual shift mode and I am shifting closer to the 65, you know, between 6,500 and 6,700 RPMs, my car just decides to shift at around 5,500. It won't shift any higher than that. As you can see, the second gear shift was around 6,500 RPM, so that is better. But how do you go fast when your car is making these decisions to make itself run slower? I don't know if it's protecting itself in a certain situation or scenario, and that's why it's doing this. But nothing adds up, and so you've got to feel my frustration.
But other than that, thanks for tuning in. Future videos coming. You know, I'll pick myself back up, you know, pick up by my bootstraps, and work on this and hopefully get something resolved, and go from there. So basically just a video of me complaining. But other than that, just wanted to update people on what's going on, and I'll shake this off and have more fun and be a little bit more of good nature in my next video. But other than that, bye-bye.